Okay. So welcome to Satsang. Very lovely to be with you. I am with you as myself, one self, one truth, one reality, one being. So the contemplation of our wholeness is a very loving contemplation, as our contemplation reveals to us more and more how intimate we are as consciousness, how connected we are as consciousness. And our interest in truth is the guiding light in our life. When we are living, being interested in the world, in experiences, in the body, in relationships, in our family, in our job, and we overlook the contemplation of truth, we overlook the contemplation of the self, then our life is a roller coaster ride and will reflect the I'm muting you, Esther, because there's a little echo. So our life will reflect this lack of contemplation, and we will find ourselves wrapped up in the emotions, the negative emotions of loneliness and depression and disappointment, disillusionment, envy, etc. Meaninglessness. So the contemplation of the self is a crucial part of your life. I would say that it is your life. You need to make contemplation of truth your life. Meaning you wake up and you turn your attention to presence, to beingness, to awareness. And throughout the day, you keep turning your attention to the silence, to the stillness, to the peace. You live dharmically. And as you go to sleep and the body-mind is starting to dissolve, you are contemplating that does not dissolve. That is witnessing this dissolving, but is not affected by the dissolving. The teaching of emptiness is a core teaching in all non-dual teachings, in all Advaitic and all teachings that are speaking the truth and that are pointing to the truth. The teachings of emptiness are core to these teachings. In your experience, you're experiencing thoughts, perceptions, and sensations. You're experiencing mentations, perceptions, and sensations. The world, body, mind. But when you ask yourself, what is the reality of the world, body, mind? What is the reality of thoughts, sensations, and perceptions? And you wait for an answer, you will only find the emptiness of awareness. I'm using the word emptiness because awareness is more of an absence than a presence. The reality of your experience is an absence. Which is a presence. As you go closer and closer to thought, or to perception, or to sensation, you will find that you're getting more and more into the emptiness. It's a space-like quality. Thoughts have a space-like qualities. And so do sensations. When you go to sensations, any sensation, the closer you get to the sensation, the more it dissolves. It may from a distance have a concrete feel to it, but as you get closer to it, you don't know what you're getting close to anymore. You don't know what it is. It sort of becomes space-like. And the same with perception. When you contemplate perception, and you bring the object of perception closer and closer to you, at some point this object will start to become more diffuse, less and less of the form. And at some point it will dissolve in awareness, in being. So the teachings of emptiness speak about the emptiness of thoughts, perceptions, and sensation. That they are like a Santa Claus, like they are cloud-like, they're like mist. And the reality is this aware presence that is completely non-phenomenal, non-objective, indescribable, cannot conceive it, and yet it is undeniable being awareness. So while in ignorance we're moving more and more towards the objects, in wisdom or in the contemplation of the self, we are moving more and more into the self, into the transparency of the self, the transparency of being. So you're experiencing more and more of the nothingness, more and more of the absence, which is the reality of being. Non-physical and non-conceptual. Because even the conceptual has a certain objective quality to it, a subtle objective quality to it, has a certain form. At the core of your being, which is in this very moment, is the stillness of being, the wordless, the deep stillness and silence of being, the peace, the well-being. The radiant light of being. And this journey, this temporary journey, is about this revelation. And living this revelation, it actually lives itself. For a while you live it, and at some point it lives you. So in your life, whenever you notice the me tendency arising, without any judgment, meaning without adding to it more of the me, more of the relative, you return to presence, you return to the absence, you return to the stillness. You contemplate the stillness that is, the stillness that perceives. That is not the result of any effort, that is just there, the shining light of being. That is what you love in everything that you pursue. It is the peace that you love, the happiness that you love, the stillness, the absence of desire. All our desires are seeking the absence of the desire. All our pursuits are seeking the end of pursuit. And so we don't spin for too long. We can invite this understanding in this very moment. In other words, there is no interest in awakening down the line, in awakening tomorrow. The interest is in being awake right now, in the recognition of wakefulness right now. It's very tricky because the mind will immediately weave a what next. And there is no next. Have you ever experienced a next? We're always experiencing nowness, presence, awareness. The thought that says next, we experience it right now in presence, in awareness. There is no reality to next. The reality is the reality of awareness, of presence, of beingness. The transparency of being. So I welcome your questions.
Hi, Magdi.
Hello, Anne.
Hi. Since I last spoke to you, we did an exercise on the movement. I couldn't get that, and that's really been more apparent for me now. And it's just really lovely to move in that way, or non-movement. The other thing I've also realised is, and you just talked about it briefly then, that the thing of time, there's no real time, there's no past, no future, everything is happening now. Everything is always this. And that's been such a big revelation as well for me. So those two big things, just since I spoke to you, have been very freeing. Just amazing, really.
Mm-hmm.
The thing I wanted to ask you tonight is about oneness, because I find more and more that I fall into the emptiness and the space, and it's lovely. It's really peaceful, and I get very happy. I talked about that a bit last time, but there are times where, and I don't know if it's just my mind questioning or a bit of the me still coming in, questioning whether there's oneness, whether there's the emptiness, there's that side of it, but I don't know if there's the everythingness, if you see what I mean, or
Yes.
or the love.
Mm-hmm.
So I can tend to almost get a little bit at times, and again, I don't know if it's just the me coming in and criticizing.
Mm-hmm.
I can get a little bit bored
Mm-hmm.
with the emptiness.
Yeah.
It
Well.
doesn't feel complete.
Yes. 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 So, you know, in the midst of the emptiness that you are experiencing or that you are intuiting, there are also perceptions, sensations, and thoughts. There is the world and the body and the mind happening. Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Like in this moment, there is the stillness of being, the emptiness, and there is also perception and there is conversation and sensation. Yes.
Yes.
Now, contemplate. Okay, you have to bring your experience, your worldly experience, into the emptiness. In other words, without calling it emptiness, bring it in, embrace it. So there is a perception occurring, which is not nothing, whatever it is. Okay. We don't know what it is. It's something, seemingly happening.
Yes.
Where is it happening? How far apart is it from the emptiness?
Well, at this moment, and I don't know if it always feels like this. Maybe just because I'm talking to you, feels like it's in the emptiness.
Yes. It is intimate with the emptiness.
Yeah.
So it's not.
I feel that right now, but I don't know if I always feel like that.
So the emptiness is not an empty emptiness. Well, I mean, we're using words, emptiness. But but in terms of using the language, it's an emptiness, but it's a full emptiness.
Yes, yeah.
Right now, for example, if you turn attention to the sensation of your body sitting, maybe your legs or your back, turn your attention to that sensation, or the sensation of your feet on the ground. Yes?
Yes.
Now, this sensation is there, yes?
Yes.
And how far apart from the emptiness is it?
Yes, it's in the emptiness.
So the point I wanted to invite you to contemplate is that this emptiness is a living life. It's a full emptiness. It's not an empty emptiness.
Right.
We refer to it as the intimacy of being.
Yes.
We refer to it as love, which is this oneness.
Ah. Yeah, that explains it well. Yeah.
So the emptiness is not an empty emptiness that we get bored with it. It's a full emptiness. It's love. It's a heart of being. It's a pulsating heart, which is love. So you can live and celebrate the emptiness in the world, body, mind. because your experiences, there is an intimacy of your experiences with that emptiness. That the mind overlooks it because the mind is always projecting a subject and a separate subject and a separate object. And when it finds itself without the object, it says, gee, I'm bored. Where is the object? So it starts to think of the next object and pursue the next object. So it's an activity. It's an inner activity to that arises out of the thought that I am empty and I'm bored. I need something to do. So I start moving internally in thoughts and in sensations. So I would eat some ice cream. I would go to the movies. I would travel to Bangladesh. I would go to the Himalayas. I would call friends to. But it's an activity to bring the object, to fill the emptiness, because the emptiness, the emptiness is a mental emptiness. It's not the real emptiness, because the real emptiness is full. So it's the emptiness that has boredom in it, is an emptiness of a subject and an object, where the subject feels that it's full when it has an object. But in our contemplation, we realize that we are the subject and the object as one, as awareness. The emptiness is the subject and object as one. You could say the subject is the emptiness and the object is the fullness of the experience. It's not an empty emptiness. But I don't like to use the term when I'm talking about truth. I don't like to speak in terms of subject and object, because the subject and the object are not two. There isn't like a separate subject to a separate of that is perceiving an object. Like in your experience right now, there is perception, yes? For example. And this perception, how far apart is it from the awareness that perceives?
It's in it. It's in the awareness.
Yes, they're intimate. It's as if one could say the awareness is taken on the form of a perception, but the perception itself, its reality, its substance is awareness. So it's not an empty emptiness, and boredom arises when the I thought arises, the me, the person, the personal subject, which arises as a thought and a sensation. And then there is the subject, the person that arises and looks around, oh, I need to do something. I need something. I'm bored. The thought may arise, you see. The thought may arise. Perceive, perception, sensation. No, more, better, higher intensity. I'm bored. Let me have a tequila. Should a tequila. So it's a mentation, yes? And of course, there is a resonance at the body level. So we have to be aware of this arising. We have to have the discrimination, the viveka, the discrimination when the arising of the I thought arises and is now creating an emotion, a negative emotion. And is rationalizing, meaning thoughts are to justify the emotion and to justify the thoughts. So more thoughts arise to justify the previous thought.
Yes.
So it's a cavalry. The cavalry.
Yes.
They're all from the same brigade.
Yeah, I recognize that one.
Right. But as soon as there is the discrimination, you're returning to presence. You return to the formless self.
I have noticed it doesn't last long. I think it is just a sort of, and it used to be a big problem for me, boredom. So I think it's just kind of the me trying it on again with that sort of.
Don't worry so much about how things used to be, because when you meet the Dharma, you are traveling on a totally new path.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
You will notice more and more of the peace, more and more of the understanding, more and more of the love, more and more of the compassion. You will notice that will bloom within you.
That's definitely what's happening. Yeah.
And the events in the world, you will find they're there, they're happening. They will become more and more happy, and some things will change. Some things may drop away. You may even some things may be big, seemingly,
I've just
but
had a series of very big things happen.
yes, but it will lead you in the right direction.
Yeah.
As long as you maintain your contemplation, because it is when you are contemplating the truth, you're loving the truth, you're contemplating consciousness, you're saying yes to consciousness, you're saying yes to the conceiver and creator.
Yeah.
Yes.
Definitely. I do love it. I love the contemplation. And if I go away from it, I always try quickly to come back, because it's the most important thing.
Good. Very good.
In life.
Yes.
It's the only important thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah. And of course, also in life, we are living, interacting with people, with I don't know, in relationships at work and family. We also are careful in our life to live according to the humility, the understanding, the listening, the compassion, the non-judgment. These qualities, we bring them in our life, so that the world, body, mind doesn't become a hurdle every day for us. An obstacle course for us.
Yeah.
We bring
well,
the
that's
Dharma.
becoming much easier for me.
Beautiful.
Just things are just flowing lovely, and relationships are becoming easy.
Very nice.
In fact, everything seems too easy. I sort of pinch myself because it's getting so good. It's nice.
We're open to all of it. We're open to all of it. The sunny weather, the stormy weather, the beautiful flowing river, and then there is an earthquake. We're open to all of it. We are the openness. We are the openness. We recognize that what we truly are is this transparency, this borderless presence. So it's complete openness. And that's what we recognize, and that's what we keep returning to, until there is absolute clarity about that.
Yeah.
And it all takes care of itself. The flower isn't concerned about how it's blooming, if it's blooming correctly or not. It just blooms. Yes, it's an ongoing blooming.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you.
Okay.
Explains it really well. Thank you very much.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
I will take a minute to address Gabby's question. Gabby, you sent me this question. Where does our idea of God come from? I know God doesn't really come into it at all. God really comes out of it. Does it make sense to you? Sort of, yes. It sort of makes sense to me. Let's talk about this a little bit. Now, the idea of God, the term God, which has been, of course, overused and sometimes misused, sometimes abused. The term God in its essence refers to that one reality. And it's not like my God or your God or this God or that God. There's only one reality. whatever name you give it, consciousness, presence, beingness, Brahman, the absolute, being awareness, Sat-Chit-Ananda. Whatever name you give it, it is this one reality. And I grew up with the term God, and of course, I had no idea what that was. I just believe in God, and my mom asked me to pray to God, and I went to Christian school, and there was a lot of the God in there too. But it's only when I had an insight in this one reality, in other words, the illusion of the separate self, to see clearly that the separate self, that this me, this image, this bunch of images, all my life up to now, just a dream that refers to some character that doesn't exist. And simultaneously to see that there is a reality that is so glorious, it's beyond the mind, beyond words, which reveals itself in time in your life as this peace and the stillness and the happiness and the well-being and the transparency of being. So it is upon having an insight into that one reality that we start to get a real understanding of the term God. So in terms of your question, that's what God refers to. And it's not the idea is not an idea. God is an experience. And then we use the concept God to describe the experience or reality or consciousness or the absolute. So if God is an idea, then it's just an image. So I grew up as a young boy with God as an idea. And I'm sure many of you did. And that idea is helpful for the society because they have the commandments and they encourage people to be generous, be kind, be loving to each other, blah, blah. And it's all good. But it's not about awakening to truth. So the mystical schools within the religions are more the schools that are interested in awakening. They're interested in what was the source of that term, what was the source of the religion. They're not interested in the religion, like the Sufis or the Kabbalah or the various mystic schools. You're right, I know God doesn't really come into it at all. You're right, yes, God doesn't come into it. God as a concept, God as an image, God as an idea doesn't come into it. I often have used the term God, and I still do use the term God sometimes in teaching, but I don't refer to God as a concept or as an idea. I refer to God as the experience, the experience of reality, the experience of the self. So yes, God as a concept does not come into it. And yes, it drops. All concepts, you said God really comes out of it. And yes, it does make sense. All concepts are let go of. It doesn't happen out of a decision to drop the concept of God. It just happens as your understanding of the reality of your experience, the understanding of what you truly are, that you are the holiness of being, the wholeness of being. That experiential understanding, which would take a lot of contemplation to come to that understanding, to come to this. It's not an easy revelation to come to, but it is available to us if we are interested in the truth, if we're interested in awakening. And the concepts, not just the concept of God, but a lot of the conceptual realm that creates an impression of a reality which we overlook, that is conceptual, and also that conceptual realm that creates the impression of a personal self as a reality, which also we overlook, that it is conceptual. That whole realm of the conceptual reality will start become more and more transparent, less and less certain, and these concepts and these beliefs and these ideas will drop off themselves, and you will find yourself as you are, the wholeness of being, the transparency of being.
Magdi,
Yes,
can you hear me?
yes, I hear you.
Okay. What happens is that I'm always being so very Catholic, very religious,
Yes.
and going to mass, and I don't want to do it that anymore. I don't have that desire. So
Yes,
I
yes.
don't know if it's okay or I'm wrong, or I don't know, like.
Yes. Often, I mean, there are so many different experiences, but I would say that, for example, like I was brought up in a culture where you go to mass and so on, and if you didn't go, it upsets a lot of people around you.
I know, yeah. Yeah.
It's funny. It's like they
I
they have
know what you mean. Yeah.
a Christian umbilical cord or something like that.
I
That it's
know, yeah.
no, it's very interesting. Like in my experience, the whole thing just fell off. Like going to mass and communion and all of that it's I don't know. It's just sort of faded away. But I used to go regularly to mass. I was brought up this way, but I don't know. It's just sort of. So I would say that I couldn't go to mass again. I mean, I don't I don't even like the chants that they make and the genuflection and kneeling and all of that, and I don't care for it. I find it's just, I prefer other rituals. I prefer to go to a kirtan and enjoy some Indian devotional music.
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't go. I mean,
It is funny, what the priest here in this little town, he's from India.
yes.
So he's like, we are doing the opposite, something like that, because he knows me and he always, Gabi, I miss you in church, things like that. And I don't know,
Oh,
like what to say, like even with my family,
yeah.
Gabi, you miss mass today or things like that.
Right. Right. Yeah. I know. It's yeah. I couldn't go to mass if you forced me. I mean, but I went a few years ago. There was the baptism. Oh my goodness, must have been, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago. I went to a baptism. It was in a church. It was, I'd rather go to, I don't know, meet
Yeah,
with some friends.
it's kind of difficult because I had my little one. She supposedly she has to go and make the first communion. So
Oh,
kind of confused, I said, my gosh, I don't know what to
yeah,
do
yeah,
now. Yeah. Things
yeah.
like that. And I had the feeling that everything is kind of changing. I don't know, in my life.
Yes.
Because before I have a lot of fear, and now I have no a lot of fear. That's good, I think.
Beautiful. Oh, yes, very nice, very nice.
Exactly.
It's definitely about happiness, though. I mean, the contemplation is about happiness, and the more you are contemplating truth, the more you are happy, the less you are feeling this psychological internal pressure. I would say, like with your daughter, uh, the greatest teaching with your daughter is how you are.
I know,
How
yeah, my example, I know, yeah.
Yes, how you are. Uh, with my kids, uh, I didn't uh, bring them up into any religion, and I brought them up, you know, I don't know, just hello.
I know what
how
you're
how are
saying.
you
Yeah.
doing? And at some point, I remember Julian came to me one day and said that some people were in school, they were criticizing him or giving me a hard time because he was not Christian, or he was not, and so it upset him a little bit. And I told him, look, people have their own beliefs, their own freedoms, and sometimes they are not very nice with you, and then you can just move in a different direction.
Yeah, maybe must start moving it a little bit slowly so
Yeah.
they notice a lot.
Yes, be with the people that you are happy, be with the people that you enjoy, and respect people's beliefs. It's their business. It's not your business. You don't need to have beliefs because other people have beliefs. You just if they're nice to you, you have a good friends. If they're not, then you move to somebody else. I would be really careful how I'm raising, my daughter in terms of believing in in a God. I would what I did with my children is um, I shared with them that the greatest awakening for me was by looking within, by sitting still. I used to at the time do a lot of silent meditation, by sitting still and watching and listening to all what's going on within me, and that each one of us has to find their path. So I don't want to market my path onto my children. I don't want to make them spiritual or make them Advaitic, or no, I don't.
I know what you're saying. Yeah, of course. I don't want to impose, my belief to my
Yes, but they're interested because interested in what I'm doing and how I'm living, because they feel the happiness. They feel
exactly.
Yes, they feel, and so
That is very important. Yeah.
Yes, they're interested because of that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's good. Thank you very much.
Okay, very beautiful. Yes, I saw pictures of your girls.
It's
They're
really
very, very
nice,
sweet.
Yeah, I'm so happy in this group. Sometimes I said, "Oh my God, my language is kind of difficult," but I think I'm doing better and better, much better.
Yes. Okay. Well, I understand everything you're saying.
That's good. That made me feel better. Yeah. Okay, Magdian. Thank you, everybody. I love you guys. Bye.
Okay, love you too.
Bye.
Okay.
Magdi?
Yes, hello, Zoe.
Hi, and Gabby, I love listening to you speak. You have such a beautiful voice. And I'm so glad that you brought up what you were bringing up. I was talking to Esther last night, and things are dropping away for me like that. Like I just can't go back to some groups that I've gone to for a while, and it's not that they're, it's like just the focus is on being a better person, and I just can't do that. So yeah, this was just beautiful timing for me to hear this. It's like really my life is becoming I just want to contemplate, and if that's not what's, I don't know, if the focus isn't on that, then I find I'd rather just sit in silence with, and I guess the other thing I wanted to ask about, Magdi, is, can you talk about, I don't know, I feel like as this contemplation deepens and sort of the sense of the body thins out, like the other day I was sitting in my closet practicing my drum, and it felt like there was another presence there. And I've heard other teachers, warn about, I don't know, like paranormal type stuff. And, not to get stuck in that. And could you speak about that?
Well, was it like an upsetting or disturbing?
Well, a little bit. It was kind of like this sensation of, I don't know, like something else was there.
Mhm,
I
mhm.
don't know.
Well, I think if you're having an experience where, like you're in this case, something else is there, and it's disturbing or it's not, happy, I would discontinue that for the time being. I would just, go for a walk, have a cup of tea. Maybe there was something I needed to go to the grocery store and buy. I would go into the grocery store, buy it, or wash the dishes. I would, the only thing I would say about the Makyo, the paranormal experiences that we have, which are mind experiences, by the way. They're just mind experiences.
That's the thing. Yeah, I was like, okay, well, what would Magdi say? This is a perception. So I just, I tried to sit with it. And
well, if it's unpleasant, why do you want to sit with it?
Right. Well, I was trying to come to the truth of it.
Well, the truth of all experiences, whether it's a volcanic eruption or the light of the sun glittering over a lake, is awareness.
Okay.
But coming back to the paranormal experiences that we may have sometimes in our sitting on our life or just walking, out in the street, is that it's important to understand that they're mind experiences.
Okay.
Damn, it doesn't. Okay, but they're particularly special. Like they're not the common mind experiences, and there are infinite possibilities within God's grace, within God's creativity, that there can be infinite types of mind experiences, and the pleasant ones, okay, or the some of them are, they're sort of like, they draw you. It's like, oh, I'd like to have more of that, or that was like really special. Wow, that was really far out. I need to have some more of that. You have to sort of watch these sorts of thoughts, because then they bring you right to being somebody pursuing a certain experience, and that's the sense of separation. So in general, I remember when I was doing the Zazen, practices, there was a guidance about the Makyo, that whenever a Makyo arises, to basically just sort of, you witness it whichever way it arises, but you don't attach yourself to it. You let it go. It's like the weather. You let it go. And there are some paranormal experiences that are, let's just leave it at that. That's good enough.
Yeah, thank you.
But if it's unhappy, then just get up.
Just drop it.
Yeah, do something else.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, so and some of these experiences can happen to you completely unprovoked. You may just be walking to your car, and some of these experiences may occur that way. they're not necessarily, they're not limited to arising when you are contemplating truth. But I think they're connected to the contemplation in a way, in one way or the other, because when you start contemplating reality, the mind, which is complete illusion, will start to be affected. And not only that, also the grace of the self, the wisdom of the self, starts to pervade the mind. And there may be very divine experiences that we have as we are contemplating the self, such as visions and divine visions, visions of God, visions of the Mary, all sorts of visions that are very veridic. They're very real experiences at the mind level, if you could say that. Which is maybe contradiction in terms, but it seems very, very real. It's not like you have a glimpse of something or a thought of something. You may actually experience visions. You may experience being on top of Mount Everest, flying on top of Mount Everest. You will experience that scene, and you could describe it, but it's still at the mind level. But it's I think I just want to say that you don't take that as a sign of anything, okay? I wouldn't take it as a sign of anything, because it will spin you. You will spin around that. Just let God do what God is doing. And you simply continue to contemplate the truth. You continue to contemplate the transparency of being, that what you are is not anything that is perceived. You are not the body-mind perception, the body-mind impression, nor are you the body-mind instrument.
Can I just say, Magdi,
Yes,
San,
mm-hmm.
Because this happened to me a little while ago, a few weeks ago, quite regularly. For quite a long time, I was seeing imaginary spiders at night.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always been scared of seeing things, delusions or illusions.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't realise for a long time that they were imaginary,
mm-hmm.
Until they started getting quite bizarre. And
mm-hmm.
then, eventually there was one the size of a tarantula. And but funnily enough, it didn't scare me at all.
Mm-hmm.
And they've just gone away. But when I looked it up, the meaning of spider, apparently it's quite common at night for people to see imaginary spiders.
So that was in your dreams?
No, it was waking.
Okay.
Yeah, waking.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently it's quite common in a state of falling asleep or waking up to see imaginary things, but you are awake. But when I looked up the meaning of spiders, someone said, why don't you look up the meaning? So I did. And it said it was Maya. And don't believe everything you see. Don't believe all appearances. It described it more fully as Maya. And I thought that was really interesting, because obviously that's the whole thing I'd been contemplating. And then I was seeing these spiders that are very, very often symbols of Maya. So, but they've gone anyway. So
yeah, I was just going to say that should reduce.
Yeah, I just didn't take them, like you said, distraction. I didn't take them seriously. I just, went to the bathroom or just thought, oh, well, it's just a funny little thing, it doesn't matter. Interesting, though, these things. So I'd mention it.
Thanks.
Hey, Magdi.
Holly, hello.
Hello there.
Hello.
So I can tell that at times that the actions that I am taking are motivated by fear rather than motivated by love.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that over time with the contemplation that'll decrease. But at the same time, when I find myself in those situations, I wanted to ask your advice because I have a history of being fairly overbearing and over controlling with myself. And so I don't want to fall into that tendency of being very like pushy with myself or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm wondering still how when I feel the pull to act in a way that's motivated by fear and a desire to protect my identity, how I can loosen up around that without being further in bolstering the identity with being punitive or being controlling or things like that.
Right. I got you. So acting out of a negative emotion maintains the entire mechanism of acting from a negative emotion. And it maintains the negative emotion, although it may morph, it's still there.
Mm-hmm.
And it will also lead for yourself and for the others around you in that interaction to further unhappiness and further unsettling. And I understand your question that you have this tendency to be overbearing over yourself and sort of controlling yourself and guiding yourself. And that also is a me tendency that may behind it have also a negative emotion, a fear of maybe losing control or fear of exposing too much of the image of yourself or some images that you have of yourself. And so even that has in it the separate self that is trying to protect itself, but in fact is trying to maintain itself. It maintains itself by so-called protecting itself. All it's doing is just wants to maintain itself. It wants to continue to play this game. It wants to continue to feel that, I need to protect myself, and so let me take some actions that protect me, and I feel like also getting upset, but I know that that's not good, and so the way I'm going to protect myself is try to control myself from getting upset, but that is going to be feeding into my tendency to want to control, and it's all dreamland. But your question is, what to do. So when a negative emotions arise, for example, you feel like, maybe you're mad or you're upset or you're fearful, and you want to act out of that fear. Okay. We know, and that acting out of that fear is perpetuates it, and trying to suppress it perpetuates the suppressor. So right there, we have a pretty good question. Like, what to do? And I would say that question is what we do. What to do?
Yeah.
Interesting. What to do? Because the separate self isn't interested in this question. It's interested in controlling the fear, or criticizing itself and for wanting to control, and it is not interested in the question.
Yeah.
It's not interested in what to do. But that question has in it the wisdom of the self. It's sort of a koan, like in the Buddhist, tradition.
Yeah.
Like a koan. And sometimes the mind is looking for an answer so they can grabs onto the answer. I have the answer. But in fact, it just wants to maintain itself.
Yeah.
I think that you have a question that you can just be with, not knowing which way to go.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, maybe sometimes I will act out of the fear. Maybe sometimes I will control my fear, and then maybe sometimes I will feel, oh my God, I'm feeding my controlling self.
Mm.
But I really like that question. Like, what to do? And just to see what arises within that question, because there will be all sorts of arising, all sorts of thoughts, but there's also the question. And in a way, somehow I sense that within the question there is peace.
Mm. Mm.
Because somehow in the question there is, what am I to do? And also, what am I?
Yeah.
Am I the controlling? Am I the fear? What is it that's defining me? I mean, what is it that defines me? Is it this thought about being a controller? Is it the thought about controlling the controller, or is it the thought about resisting the fear? What defines me? And not knowing is closer to the truth than knowing that that's the answer. This is the answer. That's the way. This is. And it's interesting because we can be living with a living question that at its core there is not knowing, and we could still be living, interacting with people, and and at the core of our being, we really don't know what we're doing, who we are, who they are, what this is. And somehow, I think in the not knowing, we are more connected than in the knowing. Somehow the knowing is sort of separates us. We have our own knowledges and our own beliefs and our own ideas about things. And when we don't know, often we sit together and there is more silence. And when we are full of knowledge, sometimes we just like blah blah blah. It's like, why don't you shut up? When are you going to shut up?
Yeah.
Where are you going? We heard. So that's how it feels to me, Holly.
Yeah.
And yeah, sometimes like a question that we have, it's sort of, it radiates into more and more. It sort of has like an echo, and
Yeah.
we don't know where it's going. We may seem to know where it started or what we thought it's addressing, but then we don't know. So yeah. And the images of ourselves are like, sometimes they're like, they haunt us, you know.
Mm.
And but I'm so uninterested in images about myself or about anybody. It's like, please. You know what I mean? It's like, enough of those images, you know,
Yeah.
myself and you and you and you. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, you can't make it stop in others, but for yourself, you could just laugh at it. I mean, you see it arising, you know. Sometimes we do, but we laugh at it because there's no way that any image can define us. We're under. There's no way to define what we are. And so when we are with others that way too, it's really lovely when we are with others without making images of them or defining them or pinning them down. It's also, I don't know, there's something refreshing about it. There's something more alive, more instantaneous, more real in the relationship. It's more free. And I find it more joyful too, and playful, joyful and playful. Because you in a way, when you drop your images, or when you're not in the image, you've disarmed yourself. Because the image, in a way, is like a shield or something.
Yeah, a trap or.
Yeah, and the trap.
Yeah.
I am trapped in my shield.
Yeah.
Whoa, boy. Help, I'm trapped in my shield. It says, let go of the shield. How do you do that? You just let go.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are like children, really. Children have so much innocence and sense of play, and you know, they drop things like that, get upset for a second, 2 seconds later, you know, it's all gone. Something about us that's like that, that's sort of covered, you know.
Yeah.
Keep covering it all, you know, need to protect this, protect that. And
exhausting.
Yeah. Yes, exhausting. So it's up to us, really. I mean, we, you know, in whichever way we can. It's not like, you know, a mission. You know, whichever way we can, in little ways. We look at it and say, okay, I'm going to let go of this one. You know, something like that.
Yeah.
You find your way with it. It's alive. You know, it's as you want it. In a way, you have the freedom to also navigate, you know, your path, which is really beautiful, because here it is. It comes to you in your hands, you know, to navigate, you know, your path. path. And that's a beautiful freedom that sort of is given to us via the wisdom that is. I mean, you can't own the wisdom. It's somehow it's all magical.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
Okay, Holly, very nice to see you and hear
Nice
your
to
voice.
see you.
So, any questions?
Hi, Matt.
Hello, Esther.
Would you speak to the trap of having expectations on the path?
I'm sorry, Esther, can you repeat your question?
Would you speak to the trap of having expectations on the path? I'm sorry, I don't have my
Somehow there is an echo. I heard the trap, but I didn't hear of what.
ear. I'll get my
Mm. Can somebody who answer?
Yes, I heard Esther, and she
Yes.
said, "Can you speak to the trap of having expectations on the path?"
Oh, okay. Okay. Yes. Okay, Esther. Zoe spoke to me. Your question, for some reason, I was hearing an echo. And so I wrote in the chat box, so the question to speak about the trap of having expectations on the path. Yes? Okay. So when we are having expectations, we are not on the path. So I can speak about having expectations, but when we are having expectations, we are in ignorance. There is a me, a person, which is a bundle of images and feelings and memories and sensations and thoughts. So when there is an expectation, there is this me, this bundle of images and thoughts and beliefs and opinions. And there is the thought of some future destination or future reward or future experience or future. But there is no future. But inside the thought, there is both the subject, the me, which is implied, it's implicit within the thought, and the destination, which is an image, which is also within the thought. So the thought is sort of like molecules of me and molecules of a destination. That's what we said, expectation. And somehow this thought, which is a bunch of molecules dancing, the body, which is also right there with the thoughts, is also molecules dancing. They all are dancing. The body and the mind are dancing this dance of that it's unhappy. It's unhappy. Because within expectations, not only there is a separate self, but there is a separate self that has a sense of lack in it, that has not arrived, that is lacking, and that is hoping for fulfillment. When you are hoping for fulfillment, what is implied in your hope is the unfulfillment, that you are unfulfilled. And what is implied in the unfulfilled is that you are a separate self. So it is important to understand the entire dynamic of thought, the I thought, and the arising of objects and forms, experiences. Like, for example, within the expectation, maybe there's an expectation for enlightenment, for awakening. It's still an object. It is a holy object, so-called. It's a spiritual object, but it is still an object. And in your experience, the primary reality of your experience, and I would say the only reality of your experience, is awareness. Awareness is not later and is not seeking any experience. It is the reality of being awareness. I am and I know I am. Primary experience, and the only experience that is real. What's the sense of talking about unreal experiences, Esther? We could, but it's better to talk about what is real than what is imaginary, because we are not a circus. If we are a circus, we talk about what is imaginary, and we create some booth that can amuse people with some imaginary stuff. But in our life, it's better to contemplate what is real. And expectations are not real. They are empty. They're sound, they're just sound. They're blip, 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 that are felt in the body. We'll get when and if And if I do, and but you are presence, you are awareness, you are that. You are not somebody in time and space. Within expectations, there is somebody in time and space. You experience, even though the thought may say you are Esther in time and space, you are not in time and space. The thought that says I am Esther and I will get this or that, a spiritual attainment, a spiritual goal. First, it has no humility in it. Because in humility, we are very grateful for what is. We're not saying, oh, when will I get this or that? We're not tapping our fingers. When will I get this or that? In awareness, there isn't a me that is proud of being aware or that has gotten it because now I know I am awareness. It is this knowingness is available to all of us, but we just choose to play the me character. We choose that, we choose that knowingly and we choose that unknowingly. When I was a young man, I was choosing to be this young man, this person, unknowingly. It was sort of, I inherited it in a way. I inherited karmically, and I inherited it from my culture, my parents, etc., who also are playing this game. But once you hear the teaching and you start to comprehend what the teachings are pointing to, and you continue to play the game of being Magdi or being Esther or being somebody who's gonna get something next year or next week or whatever, then you are you're knowingly playing this game because you know that you are consciousness. How do you know you are consciousness? Because when you look directly, what am I? Am I conscious? The answer that comes to you before you even any thought arises is yes, I am consciousness. Yes, I am conscious. Yes, I am conscious. And what is it that is conscious? Only consciousness is conscious. There is no expectations in that. There is no future rewards. For whom? For whom, Esther? You need to set your mind and your heart clearly upon what is real. In your life, the body-mind does what it does. You cater to it. You cater to the body. You cater to the mind. You listen to music you enjoy. You go for a walk as you enjoy, whatever you enjoy. But you keep your passion for what is real, which is awareness, consciousness. You don't confuse the two. You don't confuse the mind to be the source of the joy and the happiness, the source of what is fulfilling. There is only one fulfillment, and that is to know yourself as consciousness. And that is available to you 24/7. You don't need to make a mission out of it, but you turn your attention to it regularly. Until you realize that what you were expecting is already there. The wholeness of being is already here. I am that. This transparency, this formless self, and I am that. The mind can't comprehend it. It's not about the mind. The mind is completely absent in this knowingness. It is a direct knowingness of yourself as that transparency, as that presence. So the path is this moment of awakening to what you truly are. And always is this moment. It is this moment of coming to knowing yourself as that. And there are events that will happen in your life, in your world. They may scare you sometimes. You may feel, oh my God, what's happening to me? And you return to what you truly are. Nothing is happening to you. And it doesn't mean you neglect the world. You do what you need to do. You do your best with it. But you don't define yourself. You don't define anything or anybody via the mind. You do your best and then you let it go. Why? Because you know yourself to be non-phenomenal reality. The reality is non-phenomenal. You know yourself to be this transparency, this love, this wholeness. And you approach everything with love. Not with your personal desires, not with your personal ideas about how things should be. How your spiritual life should be, how your business life should be, how your relational life should be. You don't approach the world with your conditions, your personal conditions. You approach with love. Appreciation, recognition, gratitude, and recognizing that the puppeteer plays the puppet show the way it wishes. At the mind level. And you are not a puppet. You are the puppeteer. Not even that.
Thank you, Marty.
Okay, Esther. A moment of recognition is worth 1,000 years of practicing for some future awakening. So recognize yourself. You are that. Okay, well, thank you all for your lovely friendship and company and your questions and your love. I really enjoyed being with you. And we'll see you again soon. Send you my love.
Thank you, Maggie.
Okay, Zoe.
Thank you, Magdi. Lovely.
Thank you all.